Hello everybody, how's it going? It's JewJuBee here and welcome to part 2 of my Let's Build a Franchise Zoo series. We are playing in sandbox mode and we are building a zoo called Le Monde Zoo, which means the World Zoo in French. And we're also learning a little bit about climate change. So for those of you who don't know, I'm actually currently going to school to receive my PhD in environmental sciences. I'm trying to double major in physics and geology, and I'm minoring in mathematics and biology. And I hope to work in ecology and with climate change research to help with ecosystem rehabilitation as well as climate change damage prevention. So I thought it'd be really cool to take the time while I'm recording my voiceovers for these different habitats and builds is to pick something about climate change that pertains to each episode and give you guys a little bit of insight into it. So here we are building we're building a learning facility is what I like to call them, but there's a ton of exhibits going in here with different bugs and different reptiles, all from the rainforest area. So not necessarily all of like the Amazon rainforest, but there's a few from the Asian rainforest as well as the Central American rainforest. So I thought I would take this episode to discuss some of the effects that just overall climate change is having on just rainforests in general all around the world. So before we start into explaining all that stuff, as you can see, we're going with a very modern style of building. I wanted this to be very large and grand, so from the inside I wanted it to also feel very open. So there's also going to be areas inside the building with plants and different rock features to showcase some of the things that you would expect to see in this area to help teach or theoretically teach our Planco people here about the Amazon and Asian rainforests. So you'll see that as I'm working here on the walls. I'm going to explain to you guys some of the things that are, affecting our rainforests, in the world. And for most of you who know, the Amazon rainforest is the lungs of the earth. They are the largest forest that we have on the planet, and they help provide a lot of oxygen as well as they help pull a lot of carbon out of the atmosphere for us. So what happens during climate change is there's a lot of degradation in the forests. So most experts and researchers predict that by 2050 the temperatures in the Amazon rainforest are going to increase by almost 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, which is going to lead to like intense droughts all throughout the different rainforests. And the thing is that our Amazon rainforest and specifically studies like around the Amazon River show that 20 to 30% of the rainfall will reduce when the temperature raises. So you can tell that'd be a big problem because it's going to lead to a lot of fires. And as most of you know, the rainforests were on fire a few months ago and our lungs of the earth were burning, as a lot of people were saying, and it was a very big problem. So yeah, every year this is decreasing, and every time the temperature increases, it affects weather. So I'm sure you've heard how since the weather or the temperature in the earth is increasing, we're getting much stronger storms. And this is true because the hotter it is in the atmosphere, the hotter the water is, and therefore storms can grow faster and move over onto land, which is why our hurricane seasons have been pretty devastating the past few seasons, and they're only going to get worse. And for example, this year 2020, we're expecting some devastating hurricanes on top of everything that's happening already in 2020. So there you go. But one of the effects that increasing the temperature and decreasing the rainfall causes is food shortages. So I don't know if you know, but a lot of food actually does come from the rainforest, and a lot of animals in the rainforest depend on those different types of foods. But since about 1980, there's been a huge decrease in about the annual rainfall that has been falling in the rainforests, and this is creating a decline in the amount of corn and wheat and soybean and rice that are being produced. And this is also causing different trees and plants to produce fruits either earlier in the year or later in the year, and it's throwing off when these species will feed on them, such as people or humans. And about, I think it's like 1 billion people in the world rely on the tropical rainforest for food survival. And local farmers, of course, obviously depend on the crops to grow you know, regularly, and they grow things like coffee and bananas and lemons and peanuts, and they make money and they feed their families. But because of climate change, these foods are being thrown out of whack, and, you know, throwing off of the entire economy of the tropical rainforest food system. And then I think probably the biggest thing that is affected is, you know, it's like a chain reaction. The rain affects the food, and then the food affects the species. So like you already know, they affect people. Obviously, like I just explained, one reason is, you know, food isn't growing regularly, so people can't afford to feed their families. But also these foods aren't growing regularly, so the animals aren't able to eat them when they need to eat them. So the rainforests are some of the most, or probably is the most biodiverse area of land that we have. I think there's something like 30 million different types of species of plants and animals in the rainforest. And you know, we rely on them for survival, they rely on each other for survival. But since these different plants and fruits are growing either at different times or just not at all, these animals become extremely vulnerable, and they can't eat what they need. I think one of the biggest problems, as most people know, are bees. We do have a huge decline in bees, as well as hummingbirds, and bees are our major pollinators, which help to pollinate the different fruits and flowers. And because these different things aren't getting pollinated, things like monkeys and apes and even parrots aren't getting the food that they need, and therefore they're not mating and things like that. So as you can see, the rainforest is very, very fragile, and everything that we do affects it in some way, whether it's through deforestation or blatant stuff like that, or small things like releasing or burning too much fossil fuels and releasing too much carbon into the air is not allowing, you know, everything to work as it should be. So I don't know, it's just something interesting to think about whenever you think about something. One thing that I found very interesting, actually, that I learned while looking up some information about rainforest for this episode, in our actual exhibit we're building here, we have some iguanas. We have green iguanas, and we have the lesser something iguanas, the gray ones. And I didn't know this. Oh, look, there we can see the frogs. Iguanas are actually an invasive species of Florida right now. Now I know it's like the anglerfish, I think it might be, is an invasive species of the coast of Florida, but I didn't know that iguanas were. So because the rainforests are being deforested at such a high rate, and temperatures are increasing higher and higher from the equator, iguanas have migrated up north to Florida, and they are devastating Florida's ecosystem. They're eating a lot of the food and insects that the native animals need to eat and survive. And they're also destroying different waterways and stuff just from their nesting. And one female iguana can have lay up to 40 eggs in one season, which is kind of crazy. So I didn't know this, but iguanas are devastating Florida. So I don't know if you're from Florida, if you've seen a lot more iguanas recently. They've increased within the last few years. So that was something very interesting that I didn't know about. But yeah, iguanas are ravishing Florida. So as you can see, the video is coming to an end. We are just kind of finishing up putting some plants and things here in the building. I cut out some parts where we put some staff buildings, and we put some food and drink outside, because I think all of that is going to be adjusted and changed. So here we got some glamour shots of some people walking around at the front of the exhibit. These two buildings out in the front are food and drink. I'm going to remove them. I just kind of needed them there because people were going crazy. And here's some shots from the inside. We got the nice waterfall in the back. Each habitat has, information kiosk as well as a speaker, and there's some areas with some informational boards. I really like the waterfall in the back. Something about indoor waterfalls is very, very aesthetic to me. So I'm going to leave you guys there. Leave a like in the comments. Leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions or if there's anything else you would like me to know. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye!